welcome.
Good evening.
Yes,
Kane.
it is. The
How
little
are
laugh,
you?
the grimace, the big smile.
Always.
Just pumps me up.
Always.
Just pumps me up.
Because
makes me feel good.
You've called someone a fool already tonight. And it just made me a little bit nervous that if I just say go a little bit off track tonight, you're going to question everything, right? So I either stay in my lane and just do what I normally do, or I divert a little bit just to see if I can continue those frustrations.
No, we've had our text exchange today. We've come up with some topics that I'm looking forward to absolutely tackling tonight. Before we get into the serious stuff, On the Menu and SEN have come together to dish up our favourite football feast. State of Origin is back. It's the Vicks taking on the All-Stars. Now, it has come across my desk that you are dusting off the footy boots, Johnno. What is happening? Who is convinced? Are you in condition? Are you prepared?
Okay, prepared, no, but and I'm being honest with that. I try and stay relatively active, Kane.
You're a good
a couple of years ago, at Fox Footy, we had who's the fastest at Fox Footy, right? So we had a 100-metre sprint at South Melbourne, and this was off the back of a game we all played in, a charity game against a local team that had been put together with a bit of a radio stunt to go with it. And off that, it was like, who's actually the fastest we've got here? So we went down to South Melbourne to the athletics track at Albert Park there, and we've all lined up, and Nick Rewalt was the favourite, turned up in his spikes and looked really good, and there was Cam Mooney.
He would have had a fresh pair of Nike spikes.
Yes,
specifically.
He looked unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Like fully decked out.
Yeah.
And so I've pulled out the old runners, and I thought, I'm a chance here, right? And deep down, I actually thought,
a sneaky chance.
I thought, if I could just pip him here, that'd be hilarious, right? So I've tried my guts out in this 100-metre sprint. I've never done a soft tissue in my life, Cornes. Seriously, never tore a calf, hammy, quad, anything. Halfway down the straight, I'm thinking I'm going well here. Knees are high, good arm drive. Ben Keys like, you know what I mean? Like that's how I looked halfway down the straight. All of a sudden, my hammy goes, ping, gone. And I'm going, so I hobble across the line, finish dead. No, I think I still got Moons who did his hammy as well. And I'd never done a hammy in my life. It is no good, right? The pain that went through the middle of my hammy, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with this during a footy career. And I can understand why you could then, if you don't recover them well, which I didn't recover well, you can do them again and again. So I haven't really run or sprinted since that day. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about going into this AFL Nines, which I know and I've played a lot, which is a fast game, right?
Yeah,
and yes, there's some good tactics around it. There's every chance I won't venture very far out of the forward line, and I'm hoping there's...
Well, you never did anyway.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
But it was Jason Dunstall that did his... I know he did his hammy playing tennis last year, which sounded brutal, but there was no vision of it. He did his hammy on the footy show, wasn't it? Did that?
Oh, no, Gary Lyon. Gary Lyon. Gary was doing a sprint as well, but he tore it off the bone. That's next level hamstring injury. That's full operation, reattachment,
Nasty.
the whole lot. So, no, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a bit of fun. I love AFL Nines. It'll be great fun to get out there and mix it up again.
Stay tuned for regular programming for all the information you need about that. But SEN and On the Menu partnering up to bring back State of Origin. I don't like doing this because it's like you put your hand up to help out the footy club and be a goal-kicking coach. And every time, when they kick accurately, you never mention, right? You never mention. It's like tipping. When you get them all right, in the paper, no one mentions anything. You get them wrong. Or your pre-season predictions, you get them right, no one cares. You get them wrong, someone will screenshot it and remind you. Every time the Bulldogs kick inaccurately, it's your fault. But how personally do you take it, and what have you learnt this year in that role?
Oh, no, I'm serious about it. Of course I take it personally, especially from a set shot point of view, because that's been my sole role this year, has been for set shots and try to improve the group from a set shot point of view. So when they miss the relatively easier shots at goal from a set shot point of view, yeah, of course you take it personally, and then you reassess working with that individual, trying to reinforce things. And this is the first year that as from my understanding, that it's been taken to another level in terms of seriousness and the way that it's been, the program has been laid out. So it's an evolving beast, no question. It always is in the AFL world, with you've got individuals that kick well one year and they're just off a little bit the next, or they're looking for ways to improve themselves. And from a set shot point of view, over the whole year, there's been some games that have been really bad. There's been ones that have been awesome. And the club has gone from 11th last year. We were 5th a couple of weeks ago. Now I think we sit about 7th from a set shot point of view. So there actually has been an improvement on that. Overall, though, when you add on the run and everything, that's where the element around the whole lot has not been as good as last year.
And I think there was... I don't know, was there 7 rush behinds as well on the weekend? So
there's a few of that. That's all.
If you just turn the footy on, you see the score, you get that.
But I don't even take the rush. The shots that were missed should have been kicked or. And I'm big on the fact that they were more than just a miss. They were sprayed a bit more than what we had seen from a couple of the individuals. So yes, absolutely. From a set shot point of view, I look at that more closely than everything else. The collective, though, is something that I think will. And I'm glad it's been brought up, because I actually agree with yourself. I agree with Kingy and what he brought up last week in that it could cost them in 2 weeks' time 3 weeks' time if they do make a final and they're inaccurate and they lose by 10 points. Well, that's on that is a true assessment of where they are currently with that portion of their game. So it's serious, and it's something that I know that they will be looking at closely and trying to obviously fix and adjust. And ultimately, it's on the playing group to get those opportunities and nail them so that they can separate a game rather than hang in a game or lose a game comfortably, as we've seen recently.
So Sam Darcy's going to get a lot of opportunities. Now, that's the best part about it. Like his game it would have been one of the all-time individual games of the year had he kicked accurately. Now, it was 1-5 and 1 or 2 out in the 4. We saw that. I said, with my uninformed opinion on goal kicking, that he looks really good and solid inside 30. I reckon his technique is really compact. He's got a routine. You can see it. He lines up the ball. He shuts one. He does all that, which is great, because you think this guy knows what he's doing, or he knows what he wants to do. When he was outside, and a lot of the shots that he had on the weekend, I felt like were from a distance that he's not that familiar with, because usually he plays deep, clunks them, has a shot from inside 30. Is that accurate? Do you think his routine and his power, he loses a bit of that when he is outside that shorter range?
Yeah, I think your assessment's really good and fair as well, because you're right. Inside that 30 to 35, he is really comfortable. Really comfortable. You can see that as well. And he's very straight and not so much robotic, but it's just a very sort of straight and easy sort of routine that he has. And then you go to those shots from distance, and that's where, yes, he's got continued work to do in that facet. And he's a beautiful field kick, Sam Darcy. That's the thing, and that's part of it. Yes, these guys are kicking under fatigue, which we talk about a lot, but also they are beautiful field kicks, and we actually talk about that as well. That because you're a beautiful field kick, how can you relate that to then into your goal kicking? Because if I see you 45 metres away, I'll turn and hit you. Without any issue.
To change teams here, that's why I never worried about Wizard Watson. Because you watch that guy kick, his field kicking is as good as anyone.
That's right.
We're talking darts from 40.
But there's not much difference to what you see when he does a field kick to his technique when he has a shot for goal. And that's, mate, he's uncovered the piece of brilliance that will hold him in good stead for his entire career. And that's part of the challenge with some of the taller guys, the bigger guys that actually, and we've seen that with Rory Lobb recently, right? Another Bulldog that has gone back. His use of the ball out of the back half, you're going, wow, we haven't seen this forward of centre because he hasn't had to execute these type of kicks, but he's a beautiful field kick. And he's actually a good shot from distance and not as good a little bit closer to goal, because he is a beautiful long kick of the footy. That's the challenge, relating some of these things to what they do in front of the sticks. And it's a continual work, and it's a job that I love doing. I love being a part of it. And I think too, from my point of view, being there in the pre-season, rolling a program out, getting there when I can throughout the season because of loads and training and all these sort of things, it makes you think about ways you can already do it differently next year, and whether you can add that element and whether I can add that focus on the run as well, and start to take a more more rounded approach to all aspects of goal kicking, not just focus on one area.
Matty Lloyd said on Monday night with me that he thinks, and he just said this in passing, that Darcy Fogarty is the best set shot in the game.
Looks great.
Do you have one that stands out? I mean, and it's a hard question.
Tess Walker's probably been the best I've seen over a long period of time. I think he is just brilliant with his technique and his power. He gets really strong, solid base when he kicks as well, which I like. So he's probably the best that I've seen. And it's no question, Darcy Fogarty has always had a beautiful technique, but you can tell that working with Tex or alongside Tex for quite some time has continued that confidence and build in the way that he kicks the ball. So that doesn't surprise me at all off the back of, I think, Tex Walker, who sits well and truly in that top few. I'm getting used to a lot of things and the way that we do things differently in the game now, right? I've come to terms with a lot of it. But one part is that as soon as a player is omitted because he's just out of form, that all of a sudden he wants out. He's gone.
But that's always been the case? Has that always been the case?
Not really.
But,
just because of Jack Lukosius all of a sudden gets dropped, and who's to say that, you know, we haven't been in the inner workings of why he's dropped all of a sudden because he's not in that team that he's out the door and he wants out.
Yeah, but didn't the same happen? I don't know, Jack McRae, Caleb Daniel. Doesn't this often happen?
Like, yeah, but I think they're at different stages too.
Yeah, different stage, 100%. But you know, even like a Riley O'Brien at Adelaide or a Ruckman, you often do this, but I think it's a little bit more with the coaches because a new coach comes in. He'd kicked 39 the year before. He'd kicked multiple bags of 5, and he's okay. Finally, he's found his position. He's living up to the draft pick and the talent that he's got. New coach comes in, disrupts that, has different plans. Cross half back doesn't work. Then he's back forward. Then he's out of the side, and you go, and then he's a South Australian, and you've got Gold Coast who are looking to do some things from a list management point of view. They're going to have to clear up some room. So you can join the dots, can't you?
Well, yeah, of course you can. And $1 million a year, though, no.
Yeah,
but would I want, if I was a list manager right now, absolutely, I would put a lot into getting Jack Lukosius to
top 10
my
pick
footy
then.
club.
Would you give up if you're Adelaide? Would you give up? And there'll be swaps and haggling.
No. I'd give a first round if I had it between 11 and 19.
That's what I think.
Yes,
that's
absolutely what I would offer up, and maybe it's fattened by future second or something like that as well. But I would do everything to get Jack Lukosius. I see so much upside in the way that he can play, and it might be a different environment and all those sort of things that we understand. A different coach may be able to get that out of him. It just seems like that the fluctuations in that Gold Coast team is just unfortunate for him as a player, and maybe he does need that new injection to really reach the heights that I think he can in this AFL system.
Melbourne's been the talk of the week, and we've addressed that at length in the first half an hour of this program. But have you got a thought on the state of affairs at the Demons?
Oh, it's just they need to change a lot of things. It's just when you get 3 or 4 things over a 12-month period, and there may be a couple more, but 3 or 4 that I can sort of think of immediately that occur that really sort of start to question your culture out there, and they have to answer that, and then question a disgruntled player. You have to answer that. So all these layers, just start to build. So they either make the decision to keep what they have and what they from a leadership point of view, and they fix it from within. And then it's on the playing group to completely buy into that. Now, at the moment, it sounds like they're not completely buying into all the things that are needed to become another premiership team. 21, we didn't hear one thing coming out of Melbourne because everything's flowing and nice and going along the way that it should for a premiership team. But since then, there's been a number of hiccups that have questioned things. So therefore, as a club, there's some serious questions that need to be answered over the off season, and that will be from a playing group perspective, but also a leadership perspective as well.
Look out, those angry Melbourne fans will ring you up and say you've just made those things up.
No, Cornesy, you know what? I've got my father-in-law, my 2 brother-in-laws, they are mad Melbourne, mate. So I hear it and I get the passion. Honestly, I live the passion. I honestly live the passion every day. I've got one of the most passionate father-in-laws for the Melbourne Football Club you've ever seen. So therefore, I ride the highs and lows with him every single week about the Melbourne Footy Club. So we have really strong discussions about where they're at and where they're going. So Melbourne fans, I live this with you. So that's why I sort of get what may need to happen from his point of view, but also from an outsider's point of view as well.
All right. Speaking of passion, we led Footy Classified with Carlton on Monday night, and I was reasonably defensive of what has happened there. And the football department staff, the assistant coaches, the coach, in my belief that they've been challenged really significantly before, and they've been able to guide themselves through it with great leadership and with stability. Now, a similar thing is happening right now, not exactly the same, but different, and the injury list is long, and there has definitely been a decline in performance from Carlton. But I think it's been a little bit of an overreaction, Johnno. Where do you sit on the decline of Carlton in this season?
It's disappointing from that, because we see the talent that they've certainly got on their list. The injuries do play a part, but now I go to West Coast this week. No one's backing them in, of course, because of the players that they do have out of the lineup. Then they've got St Kilda and Marvel. They win 2. If they just do everything possible to just claim the 4 points in both these games. Now, I don't know whether they've got the actual talent underneath to do that. We'll find out this week against the West Coast Eagles, who are reasonably full strength for
at home
where they're at home. Yeah. But if they pull off a win this week and next week, I sort of sit there and go, okay, they play finals, or they possibly play finals. They'll be relying on Freo to mess things up, or for the Western Bulldogs to drop the game against the Giants. But let's say all that happens for Carlton, and they land themselves in the finals. The week off could be the determining factor on whether this side can actually win it, Kane. And I strongly believe that. I've got the future reference of the Western Bulldogs and what they did in 2016. And after that bye, when they went back to Perth to play the West Coast Eagles, they get Libba, McRae, Wood and Roughhead back into the lineup. 4 key players come back for the Bulldogs. After the bye, if they make finals and they have the bye, all of a sudden coming back into their lineup is Curnow, Mackay, TDK, possibly Cheris and Sard from a hamstring as well. You can't tell me they're not 4 or 5 significant players that can actually get them to where they need to in September. Yeah. I just sit there and I go, they could benefit. If they make it, they are the one team that will benefit from the bye. Now I get where they're at form-wise at the moment. But also in 2016, the Bulldogs lost by about 60 points to Freo. And everyone thought they'll go back to the West and get smashed by 10 goals again and come home with their tails between their legs. It didn't happen that way.
Can I just, so as you were talking, I was like, how many are they going to get back? So you go to their club injury list. Yep. Can I just call them out on their injury list update, though? Like this, for a game that is supposed to be transparent, when's a quad injury ever been 1 week? So they've got Harry Mackay listed at 1 to 2.
Yep.
When has a hammy ever been 1 to 2? Jack Martin.
No, that's why I don't agree with that either. That's why I'm saying they've got to make finals to get these players back. So 4 weeks.
I know what you're saying. You're saying 4 weeks.
I'm saying 4 weeks.
Why is their injury list Jack Martin 1 to 2 weeks with a hammy? We've got Curnow with the ankle, who knows, 1 to 2 weeks, that is fine. But we've got Sard, 1 to 2 weeks with a hammy. So I'm telling you, Sard, Martin with hammies, and Mackay with a quad is not 1 to 2 weeks. So can we just sort that out if the media team is listening?
I think you're backing those players you've mentioned, all 5 of them. Let's go with 5 of them. Let's not count Martin because he's back-to-back hammies and continually injured. He needs time. But you go Sard, Chera, Mackay, TDK and Curnow. As the 5, right?
That's where it sits.
But that's where it sits from a health point of view for Carlton. So the rest of the list have to get it done in the next 2 weeks in winnable games to get these 5 back for finals. Yep. That's their challenge right now.
What about my Hawks?
Your Hawks.
What do you think about my Hawks?
Your Hawks.
And
were they your Hawks when they lost to the Bulldogs by 50 points in both pre-season games? Were they your Hawks then? Or did you think they were going to be bottom 2 then?
No, I've been pretty supportive since
especially when they lost their key defenders and had no one down back. Were they your Hawks then?
I was concerned, but not as concerned as some others were.
That's why this has been ridiculously good, because I look at those games, I watch those games closely in the preseason, and I went, okay, well, the Hawks are probably where they're at and the Dogs will be where they need to be. It's completely different, isn't it, where we probably see both teams in particular, but the rise of the Hawks off the back of everyone thought you were going to be able to score willy-nilly and easily against this team, and it just hasn't been the case. It's a real credit to Frost down back and what Impey does and Sicily to be able to hold things up. Scrimshaw's turned into a ripper.
And all of them.
That's where it's so good. So, Kane, can I ask you, do we seriously think Hawthorn can win the flag this year? Is that a question we need to start asking?
It's a real look. I think they're the best team in it right now. I think they're the AFL's best team right now, and they're the most consistent, high-performing team for the longest stretch, and they have the best form line of any team in it since about round 8.
That's right.
Can they win it? No, because I just think it's going to be every game has so much riding. It's a little bit like the Western Bulldogs. Right? You can't afford a slip up because of the slow start. Every game has so much riding on it. Now, to this point, it hasn't phased them really. Take out the Geelong game, and their performance has been really good. Just win-loss doesn't matter. Their performance has been really consistent, but there's going to come a slip. There will
so
be a slip
even
up.
Across the board. There's going
to be a slip up, Johnno, and when it gets cutthroat, you can't have a slip up.
But there mightn't be. The slip up might be next year. The slip up might be.
But you're going to have to go on the road. You're going to have to go to Sydney. You're going to have to go to Brisbane. You're going to have to go to Adelaide or Perth or somewhere.
Yeah, right. So then that makes it tough, right? I understand that, but they're on a roll at the moment that you know, when you get to that point where you go, they're just doing things differently that the opposition can't stop at the moment. It's a completeness with their 23 that are representing. And I love listening to Sam Mitchell as well talk about the fact that he's been open with them about where they sit in the season. It's not hiding from the fact we're taking this 1 week at a time and blah blah. It's no, we have to win this block of game, boys, or we will not put ourselves in a position to play final. So this is what we focus on, a block, not just 1 week. We need to get it done in this period of the season. And I've loved that, the open transparency around it, if I get that
regardless
word right.
of what happens from here till now, should they be the Thursday night team next year? Should they be the Thursday, Friday team where they get rewarded with 7 or 8 of those prime time? I think that'd be a brilliant Thursday night team.
I think early on, yes, because we know what happens in this. Like, that's what I'm talking about. They're on a roll at the moment, and then every opposition club, depending how far they go this year, do a lot more work, I think, on the Hawks over the preseason. So therefore, it's not going to be the same next year. So they may go to another level again, right?
What if they get Battle and Barras?
Well, they could go to another level again, which would be, I think, awesome for the competition, because we're all excited by the way they go about their footy at the moment.
Because they don't have enough premierships.
Well, yeah, over their lifespan, of course they do. And that's why I think it's so exciting to see what Sam has been able to do with.
So do you think you asked me the question? I'm going to ask you.
I actually think so. I think they can. I think they're on a roll that their confidence is that high at the moment that they need 18 of the 23 to play well every week from here on in, and I think they're good enough to be able to do that. And to reach it.
Do you think we'll sell the most Guernseys this off-season?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maybe 3 seasons ago, there's not one Hawthorn player whose Guernsey I would buy. I said they're irrelevant. There's not that many players who you would even buy their Guernsey. Now, you probably buy 10 of them, but I'm not sure who's number one.
They're all even, aren't they? They're
pretty even.
I think Will Day becomes that guy over the short term, but you're right. There's so many even contributors here.
Give me the Wizard.
As much as Dylan Moore's going to play All Australian this year, right? He is in. I think he should be in, and I think you should give him some really good consideration, Cornesy. But is he selling the number 13 thousands of them?
Well,
probably not though.
Yeah, I know, but
that's what we're saying.
Someone will. So there's heaps of them. Like McDonald, I'd buy his Guernsey.
Yep.
I'd buy Charles Royce's Guernsey. Yeah,
I think it's Newcombe or Day are the ones, unless they get in a Barras who all of a sudden turns it on and he becomes the cult hero from a a defensive point of view and what he can do as a real senior player in this competition.
Hawks fans with kids under the age of 15, whose Guernsey do they want? 0433 98 11 16. Let us know your thoughts off the temper text. Now, the flip side to the Hawks' rise is Richmond's fall, and you want to discuss how they address the offseason.
Well, I just wouldn't mind having a conversation with you around how they start to set themselves up for 2025 and what that actually looks like. What they've lost already, of course, Dusty. They've lost Brendan Gale. The new CEO potentially could be Simon Matthews, who I had a little bit to do with the Bulldogs many years ago, and he's certainly developed himself into a position to take on a role like that. The names being touted to leave, obviously Baker, Graham, Rioli and Bolton as the senior ones being touted that could potentially leave. So what do they do in this whole setup? Because Adamuze is the man, right? So and I think he's got 12 months up his sleeve, Kane, to really get this group ticking along, because it may be a younger group that he does take on board, similar to what Sam Mitchell has done in some ways with Hawthorn. Maybe Adamuze needs a similar approach here, and I don't know whether he's got that in his coaching, or his coaching's at a different sort of approach to what a Sam Mitchell is. And I'm not sure whether it's David Teague's left, what they need to get in from a coaching point of view. Do they go to the draft and go pick one? At the moment, they've got 1, 22, 33. Do they bank them now because of what's going to happen with Tassie in a couple of years' time? And is this their time to make that call from a list point of view for the future?
Look, I think it's a reasonably exciting time for them. It's just which ones you're prepared to let. Now, Bolton, I'd be hesitant to let Bolton go because of his age and what he brings and his attributes. So it would depend on what you're going to get for him. And I said, you got to be really nasty in this negotiation. It's not okay, show you want to go home, see you later. No. You are only going if it is the best possible deal that this footy club has ever seen. Like a landmark sort of deal for a player of your... And if that doesn't happen, you're staying. And you're a Richmond player for the next 4 years. But I had a chat saw a recruiter who I know at the airport the other day sitting in the Virgin. He said, this draft is stacked. He said, you're going to get good players deep down to 40. So that may be the best opportunity for them to do that. No issue with letting Rioli go, particularly if there's a first-round draft pick up for grabs for him. So I just think it's a pretty exciting time for Richmond to start the rebuild that they probably should have started 2 years ago.
So of the 4, 3 will go. You keep Bolton. So therefore you get your draft picks off potentially Rioli, Graham and Baker.
And the one you've got.
And the one you've got, of course. And then you've got 22 and 33, which are actually good numbers as well.
In a deep draft, yeah.
That's right. So and
then you hope you get some senior players back and healthy that can support the young group.
So that comes down to the leadership discussion then.
And you hope Hopper's fit and a much better player than he's been at Richmond so far. He's a shadow of the player that he was at Giants. Taranto's Taranto, so he's going to give you all he's got every week. But there's a limit on that. And then you come up with the game plan that you think can work with a healthy squad. Don't know about Gibcus, whether they can get him back, but he's clearly really important and crucial.
Just re-signed.
To them, yeah. So, but he just hasn't been able to cope with the rigours of footy yet for a variety of injuries and nasty ones.
Do they need to change their captain then next year? If they go down this track, it's
tracking towards Taranto, isn't it? Like every time I hear Taranto talk, I think there's your captain. Like he's talking like a captain.
Well, it seems like he could be, and this is taking nothing away from Toby at all, and I don't really know Toby, so I'm just sort of talking about who's the, and maybe it is a Taranto that sits in the middle of the young and the old. So he can get across
drives high standards, gives everything he's got on game day. As I said, there's a limit on what he can produce just because of the player that he is, but he's be a good captain and a reliable, good person who's going to set standards and demand that from his teammates, which I think he's already started to do.
But that comes down to then, obviously, Adamuze, relationship with his skipper who's going to drive the way forward from his point of view on ground and obviously during the week. And what's around Adam, I think, is the other important aspect from a leadership point of view. I think they need to do a bit of a dive into that side of the club, as well as then obviously talking about whether they go draft or whether they try and just keep fattening the list other ways. But I personally think it's draft time with where they're at as a list into what's coming into the competition in 3 years' time. This is the time for them to be able to regenerate so that in 3 years' time when Tassie do come in, that they are already set as a club, got 3 years into these players and ready to rise at that particular point.